Hi, this is Kirsten with Fullmoon Digital, and here today I'm talking to Gina from Ticket to Dream. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do, and what Ticket to Dream Foundation is?
Yeah, so my name's Gina. I'm the executive director of the Ticket to Dream Foundation. In my previous life, I was vice president of marketing for in the retail world. To kind of pulled that over to the nonprofit space, and we work with retailers and companies and consumers to bring as many resources as we can into the lives of foster children, whether they be days old or aging out of the system in their early teens, early 20s, to make sure that they have clothing and shoes that fit and build their self-esteem, that they have school supplies and laptops so they can keep up in school, making sure Santa comes and the Easter Bunny, and just every day, participating in summer camp, sibling reunification so they can see their siblings with really fun experiences, and then also making sure that they have those opportunities that take them into their future, to make sure that we are avoiding homelessness and unemployment and human trafficking, which are all really high stats for aging out of foster youth. So we provide tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of essential items directly to nonprofit partners across the country. And we work collaboratively as teams to just deploy as many resources, whether that be physical items that are literally being put on these kiddos' bodies, or the funds to be able to go shop for those items or experience a baseball game or little league or swim, any of those kind of activities that youth need to just enjoy childhood, but also create their future path.
Yeah, to have a normal, happy childhood. I think that we can all agree that is ideal for everybody. I really love what you guys do, and I think right now, one big ticket item is those laptops for school. Everyone
For
does
sure.
work from home. How has the current situation affected foster youth, maybe getting some of those essentials that they need, and how has it affected your organization?
Yeah, so it's like twofold. How it's affected youth is lots of different ways, but what we saw kind of immediately, we have corporate offices in California and Washington, so we kind of saw the COVID, the high increase numbers in the shelter in place and the schools closing rather quickly first, in the country. So we were able to respond kind of quickly across the country as we saw, and reached out to our partners to find out, what do kids need? What don't you have? What are the foster parents, needing in order to keep these youth in their home and educated? Because so many classrooms on very short notice, both college and primary and high school and all those, went online without much notice whatsoever. And, not a lot of prep on, not that was against them or their decisions, but there wasn't time to make those preparations. And unfortunately, over 70% of foster youth don't currently have access or consistent access to a computer.
Still?
Usually, always. And then also, when they don't have access, a lot of them are dependent on libraries, public places that they can get Wi-Fi, whether that be a Starbucks or a Panera or wherever they can get it, their school, whether getting to school early to do their homework. And so there became a very urgent need to get laptops in the hands of all aged foster youth, elementary, high school, and college, quickly, and as many as we could, because their classrooms were moving on without them. And they're already, before all of this, they move schools quite often, and they lose months of readiness every time they move. They've got lower reading scores and math scores. They've got PTSD and trauma that they've got to deal with at the same time as learning. It's not an average student. They have to overcome a lot of internal turmoil. They've got a lot of stress in their lives, and school is hard for most of them. So getting further and further behind is just going to make those graduation rates in the future just drop off. And when you see high school graduation, high school graduation is tied to a lot of really important stats, like unemployment and housing and drug use and alcoholism. And it's an important piece to make sure that the kids can pave their way. So we pivoted really quickly to two key areas. One was as many laptops as we could fund. We unrestricted money. We had already sent partners that was going to be used for Little League and swim and all of those fun extracurricular activities that kids can't access right now, and said, use it for laptops, use it for housing. And then we also started rapidly fundraising and deploying funds that we have in reserve to provide laptops and to buy them quickly, because inventory is low too. So you kind of got a double-edged sword of, how do I get as many laptops as I can, and how do I get them out with nonprofit offices being closed? So we had to get creative. We had some of our team members doing a parking lot pickups, where foster parents could come, or actually those were college age students, could literally come on the Sac State's parking lot, and they drive through, and it was like laptop, which is not a normal way to distribute laptops. But you've got to figure out, how can we social distance, how can we make it safe for the kids, for the parents, for the students, and our teams and our volunteers to get it out there. And then it was direct shipping to our partners and direct shipping to homes. So I believe we're about a little over 700 laptops have been distributed in the last 2 months. There's definitely a wait list of, we always have a wait list. This is a program we usually have. It's just never been more important than right now.
Right.
And so we're continually fundraising and ordering laptops and shipping them out. And then the other piece we really switched to focus on really quickly was youth aging out of care, because so often they're in those service industry jobs, and which we're going on unemployment. But unemployment is not necessarily easy to apply for. It's particularly when you have no adult mentor to lean on to kind of help you get through that process. And in a lot of cases, those systems were not keeping up with the demand. So many youth were going weeks and weeks and weeks, some of them still not having received their unemployment or stimulus checks. And they just get overwhelmed, and they don't have a computer to fill it out.
Right.
Or internet access to fill it out. So
Spirals.
so it's kind of a catch. And so we were sending out gift cards for groceries. We were sending out funding for Airbnbs, hotels, rent, anything that would keep youth housed, safe, fed. And then also, if they're on a college campus, making sure that they can still take their classes. They're paying for those classes, and those classes were moving on without them as well. So we distributed at somewhere around $150,000, I think, total, to just immediately provide, those needs, and working with a lot of higher edge departments and our nonprofit partners to say, okay, here's what we're hearing is works. Here's where you can buy digital gift cards in bulk, so that you don't have to physically hand a gift card to a youth. They can just take it and go get the groceries they need that moment. Because when when you're low income, and when you have not very much transportation, and you rely on public transportation, and all these public places start limiting, they couldn't go to 5 grocery stores to find toilet paper. They couldn't go all over the place without transportation and the ability to do so. Even going to the food bank, there's been lines where people stayed in line overnight to access those resources.
Wow.
So just trying to get as many resources out there as possible to kind of stem that tide, while government systems started to ramp up some of those efforts as well. It usually takes a while, so a month, 2 months. California's now got some additional measures in place for youth aging out of care. So we just needed to get immediate systems in place, or immediate relief in place, while things caught up to what was happening in the world. And we'll continue to fund those resources. And now we're also switching as well, which we're hearing is now some schools, like 50% of the schools, get out of school like this week. And then some schools go into June. But for those kids, that they're now looking at no summer camps, limited access to parks and things like that. Not their normal, they can't just go play with friends necessarily. And everybody's been stuck in their homes in high stress situations with kids who haven't been able to see their biological parents in some ways, or their siblings. And they need fun. They need some stress relief. So we've been funding and asking people to put together porch drop-offs, just like people are doing in their neighborhoods at home, to create a kit that has bubbles and jump ropes and, fun things that the kids can do to just relieve that stress. Color books, activities, could be sports balls, or, the things that everybody's now looking to be like, okay, how do we how do we spend the summer with kiddos, and how do we create these moments of childhood in these kind of really crazy, time that we're in right now. So those are the key 3 areas that we've been pushing towards the biggest needs that we're hearing. And then we expect, when we kind of start opening, the shelter in place orders start to lessen and open, that they're almost always, when there's high stress times like this or an economic downturn, you see a huge surge in foster youth coming into care. Because there's no, usually teachers and camps and those kind of things are the eyes on kids. So there's nobody reporting, seeing kids on a regular basis beyond their family to report abuse or neglect or things like that. And in high stress times, even it's high stress. It happens, and it's going to increase more than likely the number of youth coming into care. So we know that our essentials program, which provides shoes and clothing and school supplies, even if they're going to be from home, they're going to need pencils and crayons and all of that stuff is going to be needed more than ever. So those are our key programs that we're going to be focusing, really, that we look to be focusing on probably this whole year, just with how things are. And then we're having to look at our business now runs differently as far as fundraising goes. We had a lot of events and we had a lot of corporate teams that had events, and we had a lot of fundraising events and volunteers. We don't foresee for a while that we're going to be able to pull together 100 people volunteer wise to really push out 10,000 pairs of shoes. So we've had to get creative on logistics and how to distribute and drop ship and those kind of things, which all cost money and resources. And so we're having to get creative, and we're hoping that people continue to give online and find additional ways to help when they're not necessarily able to be with us in person, but to be with us in effort and spirit and help us reach all these kids.
Yeah, that's a lot of shift, and really quickly you've had to just kind of adjust and pivot on a dime, really. So
yeah, with kids at home and dogs at home and being at home teachers and everything else that everybody's dealing with, and working with our partners to figure that out too, as everybody tries to work from home, of figuring out, okay, how do we operate?
Right, exactly. So very proud that this organization is doing so well with that, because your organization is so important and valuable. I wanted to also chat a little bit about how you guys have so much on your plate, I know, and how you guys have pivoted to work with an agency. So we've partnered together to work on some ads. Can you tell us a little bit about the need for that, how that's worked out for you, and where it's valuable?
Yeah. So coming from marketing, I obviously know that Google AdWords and search terms and all of that are important. They're business drivers for nonprofits to get donations, and also for people to access our services, but also in order for us to operate. But most nonprofits do not have teams of digital experts, which I had as in the retail space, to be able to figure out these platforms and to figure out what we need to do and what's the best terms and how do we utilize this budget, because there is great ad grants for nonprofits with Google, but they're hard to use if you're not an expert in that field. And so I knew I could potentially go out and relearn all of that, but I definitely knew that I couldn't go out and learn all of that and keep up on it every day and every week and do what we need to get done for kids. So we've had to ignore our ad grant a bit almost for the last year, because we just didn't have the resource, we didn't have the time to figure it out. And every dollar we save, as far as admin goes, is a dollar that goes into programming. So you guys, coming on board and being able to say, okay, well, these links aren't working and this piece really should be here, or, how about we try these AdWords without the risk? And that was the bigger thing, is that we could lose our ad grant if our click-through rate falls too low. Right. So for someone to try to learn it with the not ability to fail at it was stressful. It freaked me out. And so I was being way too conservative. Yeah. It was just, one thing, it was another thing to take off of our plate that we knew that, your agency aligned with us. We could tell right away that we had the same kind of thought process and business practices, and we could trust you, with those accounts, particularly because we're a child-focused charity. So terminology can be really important. And so it's been great to know that someone's doing this piece and I can check in on it, but I don't have to figure it out.
No, that is awesome. I'm so happy and grateful that we're able to partner with you because you're an organization that I love and admire. So this has been really fun for us too. Lastly, I just want to ask if you, because I feel like you've done so well at changing things and adjusting and just dealing with things as they come and taking it all on. So, do you have any advice for another similar organization that might be struggling or needing to know what to do next? Or maybe an organization that sometimes might have a little bit of a hard time making changes, because I know there are a lot of companies that are kind of holding their ground as well, not changing with the time. So what would you say, what would be your piece of advice to another organization at this time?
I think part of it is realizing that this isn't permanent, right? So this doesn't have to become your new forever, but it is going to be a decent amount of time, whether we're sheltering in place or how consumers react and whether people go out into the world and the restrictions placed on us that may change and come. And so what we had to look at is that we had some really core programs that we have poured our hearts and energy and blood into to get off the ground that were really impactful to youth. But what we had to look at was, is that impactful right now? Usually yes, but is that impactful right now? And just because we change away from that right now, or we put a pause on that piece of it, doesn't mean that that effort wasn't worthwhile, or that it can't come back, or that it won't phase back in. But it means, where should we be putting our energy that has the best impact? And whether you're a charity that's, making an impact on your mission and that piece, or your members or your youth or whoever you serve, and that impact might look different. I don't think your impact is going to look different than it has in the past.
Yeah.
And you just have to be okay with that. And that might mean that your impact is less. And it might mean that your impact is more. And it might mean you have to find ways to save money to, put into different places, that you may have to fundraise in ways, whether you're, a nonprofit or you're trying to create sales in ways that you're not used to, and really getting comfortable with digital tools, and making sure that your team can work from home on the drop of a dime and has the tools to be able to do that. We made sure we could see it coming, and we were like, okay, let's check what cords we have. Let's check what, we're going to take our monitors home. I don't know how people function without two monitors. Our team can't. So we came out with our monitors. We're going home and we're taking our monitors with us.
Multitaskers.
Yeah, and we're utilizing Slack, and we're utilizing Zoom, and we're still staying connected in different ways. So you've got to find ways to connect with your teams and realize that not every day is going to be productive as it usually was in the office, but there is some days that are way more productive, and just kind of be compassionate in that way. And then as far as your business goes, is find what's needed, that you have the tools to be able to provide, and do that. For a nonprofit, you can't go off mission, but you can find, by listening to the need, where you should pivot or what you should change or how you can actually go about that. So we pulled our nonprofit partners, across the hardest hitting states to be like, what is the biggest need? Open-ended. What do you need that you don't have access to? And then looked at what we had, the resources and tools that we had available, to see like, okay, well, we can't fill everything. Here's what we're gonna focus on. So I think it's working as a team, virtual tools for sure, leaning into that, be compassionate with your employees and your customers. And then knowing that just because an integral piece of your business is gone doesn't mean that it's forever gone, but that you just have to find, what does your business look like during this time? And then hopefully that phases back in. That's
right.
what we're doing.
And just, I guess, accepting all of that instead of fighting it is a big one, I would think.
Yes, yeah. Like we have a program called Go Play that provides tickets to foster youth to go to baseball games and the movies and Disneyland and theme parks and museums, and and we spent the last 3 years building that program, which is tremendous success, and just the kids adore it. Like we worked really hard on that program. Right now, that program is dead in the water. It's dead in the water. There's no tickets, there's no venues, there's no audiences, and I don't expect it to probably come back this year. But that doesn't make the past impact less important, and that doesn't mean that that program and those lessons that we learned can't, won't bring us right back when things turn back on.
Right. Or mean something in the future, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, is there anything else that you would like to say about the current times or your organization or anything else before we close out?
No, but if people are interested in learning more about Ticket to Dream and how they can help foster kids or how their business can help foster kids, check out our website or give us a call or our social channels, just tickettodream.org. But we're still working with companies to keep charity and giving into their DNA and into their marketing message, because that's more important than ever. We just got to be creative of how we go about that.
So tickettodream.org is the website. And what is the easiest way for an individual or a company to either donate or contribute?
So tickettodream.org/donate, or you could just go to the website. There's a donate button right there. It can also tell you like the activities that are going on right now or how to volunteer from where you're at, like at home. And we also have a corporate page, which can give lots of different ideas on, like we're starting to do virtual fundraisers with companies where they can do virtual events together, or they can do online campaigns, or like even like wine tasting, just different activities that you can do, and even taking excess inventory, which a lot of companies are going to potentially have, and put it to good use. Customers, I think, more than ever are wanting to with the funds that they have available and with different companies responding different ways, they're looking to really spend their dollars where it has the most impact.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much. That is it. So thank you very much for talking with us today, and wishing the organization great luck.
Thank you very much.